Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for everything money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram over at Ask Adam Torres to keep up with my book releases, book tour set schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Sam Wilson on the line. He's founder and CEO over at Parking Your Investments. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Adam. Appreciate you having me.
So I'm excited to get into Parking Your Investments. Definitely a different way that investors are able to diversify their assets and their portfolios, and we're going to get into that. But first off, just tell us a little bit more about the company and why you started it.
Sure. Yeah, we buy parking lots and parking garages nationwide, and the reason we started it was really to purchase easy to manage, hands-off, cash flowing, income-producing real estate.
So let's go a little bit further. So I know there's a lot of people listening right now, a lot of investors. This is a show on money, and they're thinking, I never really thought about investing in that. You hear a lot of the other markets pretty often. So whether it's commercial like office space, medical space, whether it's your single family homes, whether all these different things that people look at for passive income, but you don't hear about parking lots and parking structures or parking lots and parking garages that often. So let's go a little bit more into it. Tell us more.
Sure. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. There's not a lot of news or publicity in this space, and it's kind of one of the things that attracted me to it. Just as you said, there's single family, there's multifamily, there's all these different investment classes. But really, when I got into it, I was looking for something that was easier to manage. My background was in single family, had done tons and tons and tons of single family residential properties. Had investors invest with me on that. It was very hard to manage. That was just a challenge. So when it came to actually partnered up with a guy out of Texas, and we started buying parking lots and parking garages, and it made just all the sense in the world because there's just so limited risk in it. So for us, we're looking for hands off, easy to manage. We're looking for money to show up in our account every month. So that's really what attracted me to the space. And I said, gosh, this is great. I know lots of people that would love a low risk, decent return investment. So, let's just go headlong into this.
So tell us more about geographies and areas you look for. Let's go a little bit further. So I know there's people listening right now that are like, all right, this guy has my attention. I want to know more. So tell us a little bit more about geographies you scope out and about the assets themselves that normally meet your criteria.
Right, sure. First off, obviously it has to produce a certain return for us. So with that said, we can actually buy nationwide because most of who the people we're working with are national operators. We don't actually operate. We just buy the assets, and we have a couple of operators that we work with that are national operators. So we buy the assets, plug in the national operator, and that being said, we can buy anywhere as long as the cash flow makes sense. But there are certain criteria. I hate to say it because I know you're in California, but we stay off the coast typically just from a regulatory and taxation. Yeah.
I'm from Michigan, so it's all right. I would stay off the coast too. Taxes, everything else is just not. There's some deep pockets that make it very hard to get into properties, not necessarily at the right prices. So no, I get it. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. So you could look at something in downtown, you could look in New York City, that'd be great, but you're not going to make any money at it, especially if you're running a surface parking lot. Mm-hmm. So, there's just no money there. So, we're looking at kind of your secondary markets. You're looking at, Cincinnati, Louisville, Indianapolis. That's a great one. Detroit or St. Louis. Cities like that. And there's loads of those cities across the country that really meet our criteria. So we look at all of those places. We're actively, researching and marketing in all of those locations.
How are deals structured? I know, and obviously there's going to be some nuances there, but for people that are listening that have never participated in pooling assets like this, talk about how deals structure a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. We just set up a limited partnership that owns the asset itself, and then my company obviously the general partnership, and that manages the limited partnership. So for each asset we buy, there's a certain number of investors who are going to get in on that asset, and that's the asset that they own. And depending on how much risk we're taking on, or kind of what the profile is, they're either, we'll structure returns differently based on each asset. If it's a very basic asset, maybe the returns are pretty standardized. But if it's something, hey, we try to be open, say, hey, look, we're rolling the bones on this a little bit. You're going to have maybe a suffering on the cash flow on the front end, because we see we need to turn this lot around, which we run into that a lot. We'll either find bad leases, or you'll find just poor management, or we see, there's a variety of things we look for. We say, hey, look, that's a lot we can turn around. So maybe on that one, investors are going to get paid a little bit more of a premium for holding out and taking the risk alongside of us. So every asset's structured slightly different in the compensation side, but the general form is the same.
No, yeah, and it's just like a apartment building. If we think about that, just a value add. They have to go in and they have to turn the apartment building away, whether it's leases or tenants or something else. Well, parking lots and parking structures or garages have their own set of value add propositions. So completely get that. How are the deals? Are the deals normally financed, or are they normally all cash deals, or is it a variation of the two? Just trying to get a feel for the leverage, or if there is any, in the type of deals you like to do.
Yeah, sure. Of course, there's only a handful of lenders that understand parking.
That's what I was thinking. I know it's very niche, yeah. And I feel like everybody probably knows everybody, but I don't want to assume that, right? Like, for all I know, I just never knocked on the right door in, like, my bank, and they're like, oh, he knows.
Right. Yeah. So we've got a specific lender that we work with that knows us, that knows what we can do. The leverage on those, we can typically get them financed at 80%.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, right. So, and because of that, one, they understand the asset class, and two, it goes back to the stability of it. I mean, we work off of, unlike an apartment building where it's value add, like typically for us, we go in with a guaranteed lease. So they say to us, hey, this is what we're going to pay you every year. This is what your increases are going to be every year. And so we go into it with eyes wide open, knowing exactly what we're going to make. So with that, and usually those are 5 to 7 year leases. So we can go to the bank and say, hey guys, look, there's minimal risk. You got a 7-year lease with an operator that's traded on the NASDAQ. Like, there's not much downside to it for us. So the bank is really, pretty easy to work with on it.
So what is what's the other side of this? So, I mean, obviously it's low risk, but I always have to, play that other side too. So there's low risk. I get that. I get that because you have the lease in there, you have the leverage, you have everything else. To me, it seems like any other type of real estate asset class. Obviously, the metrics are just different because you're not dealing with it like a normal cap rate or something like that. Are you dealing with basically cash flow in the property just like you would in an apartment building? Is that kind of similar, or give me some thought process around that?
Yeah, I think I understand your question. I'll answer this, and maybe you can say.
So let's say a commercial building. You're going to the bank and you're saying, hey, I want to purchase this property, 30 units. This is what its cash flow. This is what the current owner gave me. All of their rent roll and the other thing.
Sure.
This is where I think I could do my value add. This is my business plan for it. And you're like, hey, will you give me the money? No, or yes. No, we go to the next bank until somebody likes it. So with parking lots, I'm just trying to get a feel. Is it like a cash flow proposition on getting the mortgages and everything else similar to that, or is it really different and I'm off? Just because I've never bought one.
No,
I'm curious.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's 100% based on cash flow, and it really is based upon the leases that we can sign. So we'll go to our operators, and they'll give us leases ahead of time. So before we've obviously got across the finish line, we know what we're going to get paid. So they look at that and they say, okay, yeah, it's based on cash flow. This is what we'll lend on it. And obviously we've got to get appraisals and things like that. We can't just go completely wildly crazy. But
I know, Sam, it's okay. Just give it to him. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, right?
Right. No, it absolutely does not. Absolutely does not. So yeah, I mean, it's based on the income approach. I mean, if that's what you're asking, it's
absolutely. So it's very similar to that, or to a lot of the other spaces. It's just a whole nother asset class and potential for people to diversify their portfolios.
For sure.
Because it sounds to me, and I don't know this, but and correct me if I'm wrong, but how some of the some of the storage spaces. A lot of people are attracted to those because of maybe the cushion for like recessions and other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this sounds to me like it may have some of the similar characteristics or properties. Am I off or?
No, it absolutely does, and that's one of the reasons that I was drawn to it as well. Is that it does present quite a bit of downside protection. With that, of course, with your risk in your return, it's weighted accordingly. I mean, if you're investing in an apartment complex that's a deep value add, I personally just put some money in one last week. That was anyway, long story short, that might return 17 to 20% on paper, throughout the life of the project. You're not going to get that in parking. I mean, with limited risk, now you're not getting bond rates. But, if you get 6 to 8% annually, we consider that a very decent return in parking, and especially on a risk-weighted return, it's amazing. So
it would have to, and by the way, it would have to be in that bandwidth for it to be real, because if it was hitting the 17s, then the big money, the private equity guys or the hedge funds, they'd be all over it, and there wouldn't be any room for anybody, an individual investor. It'd be done. The market would be gone in a day.
Correct.
So no, it's common sense. If you didn't tell me that, then it wasn't real. I'd be like, hold on, who betted Sam to bring Sam on a show about money? What is this guy? What nonsense?
What's this guy talking about? Absolutely. And to be honest, you can hit those, but we don't ever go into it with that happening. Like we sold one a month ago that was just, I mean, it was a freak accident, and suddenly we went, holy cow! Like, the returns.
Always going to be like mispricing in any market, but like that's not the market. Just to give the listeners an idea. No, I get it, like completely. Otherwise, it'd be a higher risk for sure.
Absolutely.
So, Sam, if somebody's listening to this and they want more information on Parking Your Investments, what's the best way for them to reach out and to connect and get more info?
Sure. Easy. First off, you can always send me an email, which is sam@parkingyourinvestments.com. You can go to the website, which is parkingyourinvestments.com. You can call me direct. It's 901-310-5496. That'll ring my cell phone. Those are that's the top 3 ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, hey, Sam, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about all the great work you're doing over at Parking Your Investments to help your clients. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, leave us some comments, and don't forget to subscribe, and let's keep the conversation going. So don't let it die here. Want to hear your thoughts on investing in parking and other real estate asset classes. So love to engage with you there. And Sam, thanks again for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Adam. I do appreciate it.